Hello, I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco, and welcome back to another episode of the RSO Roundup. Today I'm joined by Lieutenant Ken Reichel. Lieutenant Reichel's been a guest on our show before, but we thought we'd bring him back and talk about something different. The last time we were here, we talked about our flock cameras, but this time we're going to talk a little bit about our San Jacinto and Hemet Valley and Anza Valley marijuana problem.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about our outdoor grow issues, illegal marijuana growing, but it's also turning into indoor grows and starting to be quite the problem.
Yes, it is. And we have quite the experience in our little area of operations.
Yes, so just a little bit of a history. Back in the day, a few years ago when I was at the Hemet station and you were a sergeant there,
yes,
and you had the detective bureau there, we were running through those hills, taking care of those grows and trying to do the best we could. Marijuana Mondays. That was the starts of Marijuana Mondays that turned into Weed Wednesdays and THC Thursdays and whatever else.
We could do marijuana every day. At that point, it was pretty much rampant through the hills of Anza. It was going unchecked by the previous administration. No one was dealing with marijuana, and it was out of control.
We're kind of suffering through that now. That we're so far behind the eight ball that it's hard to get a grasp on it because people believe that it's legal.
Right.
And in the end, it is not legal to grow marijuana in Riverside County, especially these large-scale grows that are really a nuisance to the neighborhood.
Yes.
They're not only an unbelievable odor where people, their houses just overcome by the smell of marijuana. There are so many different issues with crime and with poisons and killing animals, and it's just the quality of life in the Anza Valley has gone down substantially from 10 years ago, and it's from all of these big, huge grows. Yeah,
people moved to Anza. They wanted their farms. They wanted to have their horse properties and their animals. They wanted to be able to get away from the city type atmosphere, and they get up there and they move into their homes and they have everything established, and they got this wonderful community, and then in come the weed grows, and they're just they're buying up the property out there. They're planting their illegal grows. They're pilfering the water from the water fur, and then they're poisoning the water fur by using all of these illegal fertilizers to help grow the weed, and it's just bad for the community up there.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, and we need to make this perfectly clear. There are a couple of little nuances within the law to grow marijuana. Obviously, you can grow marijuana. Yes. The rule of thumb is no matter what group you fit in, a parcel of property cannot have more than 24 plants on it.
Correct.
So if there's more than 24 plants, it's an illegal marijuana grow, and you're eventually going to get a visit from us.
Yes.
The reality of what's going on out there, and I really doesn't bother me what the proponents of growing want to say. These are illegal marijuana grows that are selling marijuana illegally. They like to say that it's personal use or it's for a co-op or whatever it is, and it's just not true. We know that all that marijuana is going out of state.
Absolutely. There's a tremendous market for illegal marijuana outside of California, and because of our rules or because of it being unchecked here, it's an opportunity for them to grow it illegally and make a lot of money out of state, illegal money.
Yeah. So we found, I fly in the helicopter a lot. I go up with them in the search and rescue helicopter and even the working ones, the patrol helicopters. Mm-hmm. And you can't fly across that Anza Valley, either from like Hemet wine country over into the desert area, the Coachella Valley. You can't fly across there without just seeing the mass amounts of marijuana that are growing.
And you can tell it's a different green. You can see the plant life and vegetation around the area, and then all of a sudden you see this emerald green, yes. And you're just like, oh, it's a marijuana grow.
Yeah. So years ago, it was a couple of years ago, I guess, we were out on a big grow operation that we did. There was
Yes, that was we called it Elegante
Yes.
back in June. Yes, right after you were elected. That was the beginning of our operations out there. Well, we had the Marijuana Mondays and then small operations. That was the real big where we brought in a bunch of resources and we thought we'd take that. I think we took out 127 grows that day, something like that.
Yeah, I think we had close to 200 warrants, but that's all we could get to in
Right.
that day. That's a massive amount of marijuana grows.
And we had a ton of resources that day.
Yes.
You had the entire. We had counties from all over down the state and I think we
Southern
had National
California
Guard.
counties.
That
was a
great.
good one. That was a good one. One of the things that really stuck with me that day was while we were out there, we were at the very southern tip, pretty much southern-eastern part of the Anza Valley, and we were in a canyon that had a large outdoor grow. There were a couple of greenhouses, but it was all through the manzanita grows. It was
Right.
all, they were hiding it underneath the manzanitas. And one of the things that really struck me, now we saw all the poison and everything else, but you're out there in those hills and there is no wildlife. There were no birds, there were no rodents, there were no mice, squirrels, chipmunks, nothing. Everything is dead. They've killed everything to protect their marijuana grows.
Yes. And it's bad. I mean, the wildlife does not like those chemicals. It doesn't want to be anywhere around those chemicals, and it destroys their natural habitat. It's horrible for that wildlife, and that's a huge problem for that area because there was wildlife everywhere. You had all sorts of things.
You've
Deer,
got deers,
squirrels,
mountain lion,
yeah.
bear. All of those things feed on. I mean, it's the chain of life out there.
Yes.
And when you poison one thing, that moves up that food chain and everything dies.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy. There were no birds. There were no hawks. It was just desolate.
Yes.
And that was the entire canyon. That's one of the things that people just don't realize. They say, oh, it's just a little plant. No. But it's not only bringing crime, it's poisoning, polluting the environment.
Yeah. And that day specifically, we had that huge operation plan, and the night before, I think 3 or 4 hours before, we had a homicide. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be someone trying to rip off another grower, steal from him his product, and there was some gunfire exchange, and we had a murder. It's not a victimless crime.
Right.
It's horrible up there.
So with that, we've been finding that human trafficking comes into play, and they're for labor. I mean, we think of human trafficking in the sex trade, but it's a labor trade also. And these people are being brought over and forced to work, and in really some of the places that they're living are horrible. It's horrible living conditions.
Yes.
No power, no water,
No
things
sewage.
like that. No
Yes.
sewage, and it's the crime that comes with it, the homicides, the thefts, the shootings that we've had out there are just unbelievable. And of course, when we get there, there's usually no one there. They all leave, but the surrounding properties get hit with gunfire, and the animals have been hit.
Right, and you just think of it this way too. You have citizens that have moved here from wherever they decided to pick this as their retirement home, mm-hmm. put all of their money that they've worked their years for this beautiful ranch in this, and it really is a beautiful area.
It's beautiful up there.
I mean, I love it there. And then their next door neighbor turns out to be a gangster, and there's a shooting there, and their house is getting hit with bullets because of they're getting robbed all the time, and then they have to deal with the smell of the marijuana. It's just horrible for that community.
Yeah, the water table is drastically being lowered. The wells are
Yes.
going dry. They're having to come out and re-drill and deeper. Water theft is being taken from other places and transported in for these grows. It's definitely a mess. We're trying to get a handle on it. We're definitely doing everything that we can. It's something that we are not going to stop. I can tell you that. I enjoy it. I know the deputies enjoy it, and the residents up there are unbelievably grateful.
Yes, and we continue. We do work. We do operations weekly. We target residents. We take information from citizens. So if anyone's listening, they want to give us information, please call the Hemet station. We'd love to hear about your neighbor that's growing. And we work to make that community safer, and we want it to be a weed-free zone for the citizens that live up there.
Yeah, of course. I get messages all the time in my Facebook account and Instagram account of addresses where it's being grown, and they're afraid for their kids. One of the things in the very beginning when it really got to me, when I said we got to do something about this, I was being told where their grandkids were coming in to see them. They moved out there for this ranch lifestyle. Their grandkids come in, and they used to just come in and ride the horses and go out and ride their horses in the hills, and now they're met with people with guns and kept off the property, and it's just not someplace that we can allow it.
And the growers are bullies. For every negative message, every time we do one of these operations, we post it on Facebook, we show images, and then we get all of this negative feedback. And I can tell you, for all the negative feedback we see on Facebook, we got 10 times that in private messages, 10 times that in emails, and the people showing up at the station bringing us cookies and flowers and thank you cards. We have a ton of support for what we're doing up there.
Yeah, we do. And that certainly is going to continue. Those are the easy ones that we find, or they're easy to identify, these big greenhouses that are in your neighbor's yard, the plastic going up and the solid fences that they think covers it so you can't see it. Everyone know that these are all illegal marijuana grows. But with all of that, I want to talk just real briefly that we're seeing that it's moving from outdoors and they're moving them inside now.
Right. With with homes being vacant and with COVID and different things going on, they've kind of moved towards the indoor type growing, where you buy a home for relatively low money or rent a home and set up shop inside a residential neighborhood. And we were seeing that in San Jacinto. We did a few operations over the past year and a half targeting just indoor grow operations. We partnered with the power companies to identify where they're stealing power, and we're looking at millions of dollars in theft from utilities. And if you think
that gets passed on to us as the
right.
customer, that's not just they're not stealing from Edison, because Edison's recouping those
right.
costs.
Edison will
from
never
us.
be a victim. They're
Right.
going to just pass. They're going to take that loss and then pass it on to the consumer at a later date.
That's right. And for someone that has a rental home that's renting out your home, you have to be very careful who you're renting to, and you have to pay attention to what's going on there. Someone is paying cash 5 days early all the time because they don't want you there. That's probably a red flag.
Oh yeah, and aluminum foil in the windows and the smell and no neighbors, dead grass. They don't maintain. They're not living.
The homes
there.
are being destroyed.
Yes,
I remember going into a 2-story home that the entire house, every room had been converted into a different portion of the grow, different stages of growing. I remember walking on the upstairs floor thinking I was just going to fall in because it was just mush. Right. The water had saturated the floorboards so much that you were just
it was going to go in.
It was like a sponge.
Yes, absolutely.
And that house is destroyed. There's no way those people are ever going to recover that money back.
No, because the fungus and the mold and all the other issues that they don't.
Real estate agents need to be concerned. They need to notify us when you come across a home like that.
Yes.
Because if you sell that, then they're liable for that. Broker's liable for that sell if that's not disclosed to the next buyer. So for all of you out there, if your neighbor has an outdoor grow, we need you to contact us, please. We may not hit it that next day. We may not remove it that next week, but we will get to it. It goes on a list, and we take care of it when we can. But also, it's the indoor grows in neighborhoods that if you suspect your neighbor's growing because you can smell it in the mornings, I'll give you a telltale sign, especially as we're coming up on winter months. If you look out in the morning and everybody's roof is wet except for one neighbor that's probably got a marijuana grow in it. They have to maintain the humidity and the temperature in that house, and it's a lot different than every other house there. But we need to rid those. Those are getting robbed also.
Yes.
And it's a danger for the community.
Marijuana is expensive. It's very expensive, and the illegal market is out there still. Even though there's tons of places where you can go, dispensaries you can buy it legally, there is an illegal market. It may not be here in our communities, it may be in a different state, but that marijuana is worth a lot of money.
Absolutely. And so for us in Riverside County, I've made it no secret that we are actively enforcing the illegal grows, and we are taking down illegal grows, and you will do jail time for it, and we're not going to stand for it. We take our safety serious. We value the quality of life of our residents, and we're going to do everything we can to keep them safe and keep their neighborhoods marijuana free. That brings us to another end of the RSO Roundup. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.